Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and Alex King here on this Tuesday, November the 27th, 2018. It is 4 p.m. New York time. That's 1 p.m. Los Angeles time, 9 p.m. London time. And if you're in Sydney, Australia, good morning. It's 8 a.m. We hope you're off to a good start today. Obviously, I'm not off to the best start there because the music was going bonkers for a second, but that's all right. That's what editing is for, right? Because after we're done here, I can go edit that, you know? Make it all sound better. So, how you doing, Alex? We haven't talked since last Friday. How's it going? You doing good? All right.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, I was telling you before the show, I'm doing okay. I could be doing better, but then you got me laughing.
We all could be doing better.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about it. But then you got me laughing and I was doing better. So, that's what it's all about, right? Your daily dose of happy.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we're here for. That's why we do this show, to help other people get into that better feeling place. Because that's what we all want. We want to be feeling better, right? I mean, the person who listens to this show knows something about the law of attraction. They've perhaps tried to implement it. They probably had some success. They manifested some stuff. Mm-hmm. But we all know how important it is to get into that happy feeling place, because that way you manifest the right stuff. You don't want to manifest the wrong stuff. You want the right stuff. So that's what we're all about here. We're about, getting that right stuff going. So we have a topic today that I think is going to help contribute to that. We are, as usual, live streaming this to the Facebook Law of Attraction Changed My Life group. And so if you happen to be a member of that group and tuned in today, we would encourage you not only to listen in, but also participate. I mean, if you, for instance, find that, you have a thought that you want to contribute, or maybe you've had an experience related to stuff that we talk about, or maybe you just have a question, either about the topic or just about law of attraction in general. Put something into the chat if you're listening live in the Facebook group, because we'd love to address it directly. In the meantime, we'll just keep going with what we're doing, but I'll be monitoring. I'll be watching. I'll be watching to see who is commenting today. So we're off to a good start here. So anyway, you're the one who came up with this topic, Alex, and I thought it was an interesting one. Not something we've ever really done on LOA Today before. Mm-hmm. But then again, everything related to life is related to the law of attraction, because, we attract everything into our lives. So really, there are no limits. It's kind of nice to be doing something that's a little bit further out than our normal wheelhouse, so to speak.
Right.
And codependence is definitely a big deal out there. There are a lot of people dealing with codependence and with the ramifications of it in their lives. Mm-hmm. There are support groups. There are 12-step support groups for people who are codependent. And so that shows how big a deal it can be. Now, independent, first of all, you don't find any 12-step groups for independent. I don't know why. There should be. I mean, it doesn't feel like there should be.
They're independent. They're doing it on their own.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, all right.
Yeah.
No, seriously, independent is the best place to be, obviously, because if you're independent, interesting thing about independent, often people think if you're independent, well, that means that you can't be with somebody, which is not true.
No.
It's actually just the opposite of that. You have to have independence in order to have a healthy relationship with a significant other. You really can't do it any other way. But it's interesting how that misconception exists, I'm not even sure where it comes from. I mean, do you know? I have no idea where it comes from. But,
I have no idea.
Yeah. But codependent versus independent. And specifically, you were thinking in regard to relationships, right?
Yes, friendships and relationships. Yes, that's what I was thinking. I mean, there's different types of relationships. So, yeah, relationships. Mm-hmm.
Yep, because, every friendship is a relationship. An acquaintanceship really is a relationship. Anybody that you know is a relationship. But we don't typically get some people might, I suppose, but most people don't tend to get codependent with their coworker. That's usually not the way it goes.
No, I wouldn't say so.
No.
You can't be like, oh, I'm not going in today if you're not going in today.
Yeah, right. I can't come into the office today because my coworker isn't coming in today. That just doesn't work.
You can't call in codependent.
Right. You can't. Walt just called in codependent again. Doesn't quite work.
No, it definitely doesn't.
But seriously, let's get to where the topic came from, because you did come up with it. what were you thinking about? I mean, we came up with this topic a week ago, or more precisely, you came up with it a week ago. But what were you thinking about at that particular time that made you decide this is the way to go? Because we just finished anxiety, so I figure it must be tied in some way to that. But what was the thought process?
Not really, but yes, in a way, because I was thinking when we were talking last week about about popularity and different types of friendships you go through in life, and how some people are there for a reason and some people are there for a season,
right?
You know, that type of thing. So that's where I came up with the subject for today.
Yeah. In other words, finding out who your true friends really are, because that's a common thing. Carlos was talking about that the other day, about how you don't really know who your friends are until the spam hits the fan, and then you find out who your friends are. You find out who the real ones are, the ones who stick with you. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think I gave the example of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, because when Magic Johnson was diagnosed with HIV, most of his NBA friends wouldn't come near him, including many of his teammates on the Lakers. But it was Larry Bird who called him up to find out if he's doing okay, despite the fact these guys had been bonking heads for years. But there was a real connection there, and Magic really recognized that. So yeah, that's where you find out who your real friends are, when the spam hits the fan. I mean,
exactly.
I imagine you have your own experience that you draw from when you think about that. Can you think of any kinds of incidents like that?
I had an incident maybe about 6 or 7 years ago where I lost my friends it was two specific friends we were friends for like 15 years.
Wow.
Like since junior high.
Yeah.
So you would think those are your friends for life. And then, I was going through depression and anxiety, and I was inpatient in the hospital for depression and suicide ideations and stuff like that. And they were just like, no, it's too much.
Wow.
We're like, no, this is your second time in the hospital. We're good.
Second time, I've heard that not so much in the hospital, but I've heard second time a lot from people.
Yeah.
How, the friends, the ones who are really the pseudo friends, they'll give you one try, but the second time around, forget it, they're done.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I gave it my shot.
I gave them their space, but it was ridiculous, because it was to the point where they were like I'm calling and I'm like, hey guys, what's up? No one's answering the phone. No one's calling me back. And no one's giving me an explanation as to why. And so to this day, I still don't know what the reason was.
It's almost like,
I'm just assuming.
When I was in school, I don't know if this is true when you were in school, but when I was in school, one of the things that kids would tease each other about was having cooties. So if you had cooties, you were something that, nobody wanted to be anywhere near you. So it was like you had cooties, right?
Exactly.
They weren't going to come anywhere near you.
Wanted to play with me.
Yeah. Yeah. I suspect that the same people who made up the whole concept of cooties were the ones who wouldn't call you back. That's usually the way most things work.
Right? But so that's what happened to me with that one situation. But so I mean, it took years to get over it. The worst part is they decided to dump me for my sister. So they became friends with my sister, and now my sister and them are hanging out, and I'm like, what about me? What happened? Why did I get traded in? What happened?
Right. Yeah.
And no one would explain to me what I did or what they did or what the situation was.
Well, one thing I know for sure is that it had nothing to do with you.
Well, I know that now.
Yeah.
Hindsight being 20/20. Well, clear mind and everything.
Well, also, I have Abraham's sight.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that Abraham Hicks teaches, right? They teach very clearly that in like 99% of the cases where there is somebody who is looking askance at somebody else for whatever reason, under whatever circumstances they are, the person who is looking down their nose or looking badly at somebody else is the person who has the problem. It's not the person who they're looking down their nose at, even though we tend to think it's the other way around.
It's like the bullies in school. Those are the kids with the problems.
Yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Yep. And it can work either direction. It just depends on who's doing the transference, who's doing the what's the word I'm looking for? The projection. Who's projecting their own stuff on somebody else?
Exactly.
Which can get very confusing.
It can be. Yeah.
Because when you're on the receiving end of that, especially if you're in need, if you're in a vulnerable place,
right?
That's just very confusing. I mean, you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly. I was left with no friends. So I was like, so I just, started reaching out to my older friends that are from, let me see. One of them, my brother from another mother, my B-fam. We've been friends since 4th grade. So, I started reaching back out to him and my original friends and they stuck with me and they're still with me to this day. So
good for them. That's a real friend right there. The person who sticks with you no matter what. That's a genuine friend.
Yeah. The person that checks in on you, are you doing okay today? That type of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the real kind. That's the real deal.
Exactly.
What is it? Where does codependence fit into this, do you think?
I felt like maybe my relationship with the 2 friends that I lost was codependent because I felt so lost when they disappeared. Like I was just like, well, how do I go on without them? Mm-hmm. And then I was like, there's got to be more to me than just the 2 of them. Like, but it's like that's what I did during my day. I would call, and talk to them all day. Mm-hmm. So it's like, what was I doing with my life? So that's how I felt like it was a codependent relationship.
Because codependence is basically depending upon the behavior of somebody else for your own happiness.
Yeah, yeah.
So in this case, it was you depending on them to what? I don't quite get it.
Basically, because I was going through depression and everything, I would call them to hear about their day for them to cheer me up. So they were like my cheer up squad, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Or to distract me and take me away from whatever I was going through,
And I have to say, that is prevalent. That's almost normal. And by normal, I mean common. It's extremely common. I know for myself, I would have fallen into that category up until about the time I discovered law of attraction because I really didn't think I had any control over my own emotional reaction to stuff. So I needed to have somebody else, anybody else, give me a stimulus of some kind so I could react to it. Because I was just in that mindset. It wasn't until I learned about this stuff that I realized, wow, actually I can move my own emotional set point, which was a real eye-opener for me. I mean, seriously, it was big. Because I really didn't think you could do it. And I didn't discover this stuff until I was in my 50s. So it gives you an idea, like 50 years of just being completely dependent on what somebody else is trying to do in order to get a reaction,
Yeah.
Now, I wasn't specific about it. I wasn't specifically attached to one person, so I wasn't codependent in that sense. I was codependent on society. Somebody's got to stimulate me in some way.
Well, see, I always stimulated myself, but at the same time, I also depended on my friends and other people, and they also depended on me, which is how the relationship was codependent because every time somebody wanted to have a good time,
Whoops. Just lost you for a second there. Oh, no. Hopefully you'll be back pretty quickly. Well, while she is trying to reconnect here, I am going to put out a couple of our usual messages I do. First and foremost, the message that if you are not yet a subscriber, we want you to click on subscriber, so please do that. And second of all, and by the way, all the links for subscribing are in the descriptions in most places where these videos and audios are being posted. But if you don't see a link in the description, just go to the homepage of our website at loatoday.net, and you'll be able to find there how to subscribe. And then once you subscribe, share the fact that you're doing it on social media. And I did it. I mean, I thought if I just gave out those 2 messages, Alyx would find her way back, and she did. Hooray!
Yay! I had a phone call, so it comes through and then it cuts me off of you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I need to figure out how to put my phone on Do Not Disturb and see if I can still use.
There ought to be a way to do that, shouldn't there?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is. I'm going to figure that out by next week.
Okay, all right. So now you have something to do. And it doesn't require anybody else. You can do it independently.
Well, it might require Google.
Google, yeah, that's that too. Yeah.
I'm definitely codependent on Google.
Yeah, I think most of us are. I'm not so much dependent as hooked. I'm just plain hooked. I love Google. I mean, because I'm also good at finding stuff with Google. So, I mean, there is actually one. Talk about codependent. There is one bad side to people that about Google, because when people you're close to find out about it, they want you to do looking up for you. You know that?
Yes.
Have you had that?
Yes, all the time.
All the time, yeah, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
People know I'm really good with Facebook, so they're always like, "Oh, how do you do this?" And I'm like, "Now I get to screenshot the pictures and draw arrows to where you're supposed to press." And but then I'm like, "Okay, be a nice person. It takes 5 minutes out of your life. Just do it."
Well, I'll tell you, I actually had a little bit of a meltdown about it the other day because my sister called me up for computer help, and I'm like, the go-to computer guy. Anytime that somebody needs help with something, they call me up. And she caught me at a time where I was just feeling, kind of emotionally out of it. And my whole reaction was, no, not one more. I'm done. No more. I can't take this anymore. I even voiced it to her. I said, look, this isn't just you. This is me. This is me reacting to everybody. But I'm so tired of everybody calling me up and saying, hey, can you help me fix this computer problem? And who do I get to talk to, right? If I have a problem, who do I call? Everybody's calling me. No, it was that kind of a meltdown, right? My sister was very understanding about it. She did get the help anyway, but nevertheless, she was understanding about it.
Yeah, that's a good sister.
Yeah. Well, I also have to give her credit too, because long before I got involved in these more woo-woo kind of topics like law of attraction, I was not a believer at all. And my sister was, and she was trying to introduce me to psychic phenomenon and astrology and all this other kind of thing. I just kept shaking my head, like, yeah, okay, yeah, right, PJ, yeah, sure. And, just completely dismissing the whole thing. Now, all of a sudden, I'm having conversations with her about the stuff that she used to tell me about. So,
right.
Well, some of us come to the table a little bit late, but.
Yeah, I feel you, because my brother just got into law of attraction, so he's telling me all these books that he's doing. I don't like to read books, so he's telling me all these books, and he's like, yeah, and then there's this theory and that theory, and I was like, dude, I'm like 10 years ahead of you, but, good for you, though. A for effort. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Glad we can have a conversation about it.
It is interesting, though, how much acceptance it's gotten. I think The Secret had a lot to do with that because that was so popular. But I'm still in the mode of, somebody asked me, oh, you do a podcast. What's your podcast about? Oh, well, it's about this thing called law of attraction. And no, a lot of people aren't really into it. Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Really?
I get shocked when
I have the defensive side that says, well, geez, I don't want to offend somebody else. They're going to be upset because I'm attacking their religion or something like that. I have this preconception. And then they come, oh, yeah, I've heard about that. Really? Just surprises me every time.
Every time. Oh my God, I know the feeling.
So let's get back to codependent versus independent. And by the way, I want to say a couple hellos because we are getting some hellos from people in the audience. So Jeffrey and Brown both said hello. Hello to the both of you, or Bronwyn, excuse me. And Bronwyn had a really nice little smiley. So Jeffrey had a great big smiley. So we're getting smiles from people, which is nice. Good stuff. And I see Jamie's connected in too. Jamie's one of the admins of the group, so, that's like one of the heavyweights. Yeah.
Well, hi, Jamie. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. So codependent versus independent. We started to talk on that before the phone call rudely cut us off. But independent is where I think we all want to be, especially when it comes to being LOA practitioners. Because when you're independent, you're not looking outside of yourself so much. I think that's a key portion of being independent, don't you think? You're looking internally. You're trying to get your answers internally. You're trying to communicate with your inner being and all that kind of thing. And not that being independent necessarily means you do that well. I mean, I've been pretty independent for quite some time, but doesn't mean I've always been really good at, talking and getting answers inside. A lot of times I get silence, It's like, anybody in there? Hello? Testing. Is this being on? Right. Exactly. But I also have had pointed out to me by especially my co-hosts who are life coaches that we all get answers from inside. And the way to understand that is anytime that we have an emotional reaction to something, that's actually an answer from inside. Because this is the Abraham theory, right? The Abraham theory is our inner being always looks favorably on us, always sees us in the happiest, most positive light. So anytime that we are feeling good, we're in agreement with our inner being. That the connection is a clear, what they call in alignment connection. When we're not feeling good, we're out of alignment with our inner being. So our inner being is saying, yes, yes, yes. We're saying, no, 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 no. And we're in disagreement. So it becomes actually a nice little tool, because if you want to ask a question, if you can get a feeling out of the question, if the question leads to a feeling answer of some kind, you know how your inner being is responding without having any words, without having signs, without having pictures or images or anything like that, just by knowing how you're feeling. Now, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
The fact that we can do that.
I get signs and I'm not going to say visions, but what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but I do see things ahead of time.
You do. So these are precognitive signs. These are these are signs of stuff to come rather than signs of what you've already been focusing on. Yeah. Like any cool stories?
Let me see. I don't know. It's just deja vu a lot. Like, I'll have a dream and then the next day it'll happen. It's part of that Aspie issue where I have with the racing thoughts, where I have conversations in my head before they actually happen, but I already know the responses to the questions that I ask before I go into the situation. So when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, all right, I've already had this conversation, but here we go.
Does it ever change?
I mean, people's reactions change because everyone reacts differently to what you ask them, but no, I'm pretty straight on.
Wow. That's I mean, for somebody like me, that's a little bit spooky.
Is it?
Yeah. I'm. There's woo and there's woo woo. I'm woo. I'm just like I'm like a little over the line of woo.
So you're woo-ish.
I'm woo-ish. Yeah, exactly. Woo woo starts to get a little bit far out for me. So I mean, the whole idea. I mean, I think it's cool. I really do like the idea of having that. What interests me more is being able to communicate with the dead, with non-physical beings, with beings who are not part of the physical life. Because that's what Esther Hicks does.
I've been told that I have that power, but I don't want to tap into it because I'm too scared to do it. No.
Really?
I'm just like, I'd rather not. I've had psychics tell me, well, you do have that power, but you have to, there's certain things you have to do to tap into it. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to cross that line.
They're not going there.
Let's leave the veil up.
What is it about that? I mean, here I am talking about how you being able to dream the future and hit it accurately makes me spooked out. What's spooking you out about being able to connect in that way to the other side?
My independence, ironically.
Oh, okay.
Not being left alone, you know what I mean? Like, I used to watch Medium back in the day, and Ghost used to just come into her bedroom in the middle of the night and just be like, excuse me, I have a question. Well, you know what I mean? So I feel like it would be like that. So I was like, I'd rather ignore the fact that they're there and just be ignorant to the whole situation.
That's funny. It's understandable. My understanding, though, is that people who learn to develop these skills, they actually learn to build boundaries, I guess you might call them.
Boundaries.
Saying, okay, you guys are not allowed to contact me between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. I'm off the clock, right, yeah.
Yeah.
No contacting, go away.
Yeah, exactly. And which is cool, but I'm still like, I don't want my relatives to be like, hey, I'm over here, I just wanted to say hi. And I'm like, yeah, but you know what I mean? Like, I've already mourned you, so just stay over there. Don't come back and tell me things that I don't need to know. I'd rather not. I feel like my grandmother who passed last year, I feel like she would be the one to come through, and she would be like, always, because she's always worried about me, because she was the one who I called during my depression and everything else. I was definitely codependent on her, and she always worried about me. Like, we talked for like 3 hours a day, every day. Wow. So I feel like she'd be the one, if she's not here now, she'd be the one who would be in my bedroom at 2:00 in the morning going, are you okay? How are you feeling today? Did you eat today? You know what I mean? So I'm just going to draw that line where it is.
Well, I have been reassured, and mostly by my sister, who's really all into this kind of thing. I have been reassured that when people are on the other side, they may use that kind of behavior to make it clear to you who is contacting you, but they've actually left all that stuff behind. I don't know if that makes you feel any better, but that's what I've been assured of. That because, well, think about it. There's a reason why they call it heaven, and the reason is it's really good on that side. I mean, right. It's a party atmosphere. That was the message that I got, or actually my sister got it when my father passed. Mm-hmm. My father passed 10 years ago, and she got a psychic message from him about 3 or 4 days later when she and my mom were in church together. And the psychic message, when she got it, she first recognized it because she's been taking classes in mediumship and psychic behaviors and so forth. And she recognized the symptom of it, made the connection, asked if it was my dad, got a yes. And being my sister, who she is, first question she asked him is, what's it like on the other side?
Yeah. That would be my first question.
Would it be? Okay, yeah. Well, that was her first question. And the answer she got back from him was festive.
Oh,
so it sounds like it's a good time on the other side, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty cool idea right there, you know? Yeah. Plus, it was also confirmation for me that my sister wasn't making it up, because my sister would never use the word festive. That would be what I call a dad word. Right. That's a dad word. That's not a sister word.
Gotcha.
But, I've heard actually that kind of story, not so much my dad's story particularly, but that kind of story a lot where, every single story of what's it like on the other side involves some aspect of just people just being happy and just, living it up and feeling great and, so much love being passed around and all that kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
I kind of assume if you're in that environment, you don't worry too much anymore. Worry doesn't really vibrate to that same level,
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, I mean, unless your grandmother has found some way to be on the other side and not be a part of the party, which I guess I can't rule it out. So if she's part of the party, I don't see how she could be, the worrier anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. She would be, though.
She'd find a way to worry anyway? Oh, okay.
She would.
Yeah, I may be dead, but...
She's like, my granddaughter needs me, so I have to hover. I'll be here.
Hover. Oh, dear. Well, no wonder you don't want to have any messages. I can understand why.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, no, I like my private time, which is all the time. I'm very independent.
We have a few messages. People have been commenting like crazy, particularly Jeff, Jeffrey likes to leave lots of comments during these. But he says,
good.
First one, big one he left was, are feelings of loneliness indicators that independence is not what you're really wanting? Interesting question. What do you think about that?
That's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I don't think loneliness has anything to do with independence, because I'm an independent person, but I do get lonely at times. Like, I still crave a relationship with someone, but that has nothing to do with the fact that I can't be by myself.
Right.
Like, I still have me time and I'm still enjoying and living my life and enjoying myself. But at the same time, it would be nice to have someone next to me. So I don't think one has to do with the other.
Yeah, I don't think they have. Well, I think they can. That's when you start getting into codependence. But I agree.
That's true.
I agree with you that if you're truly an independent person, it's not really relevant whether you're lonely.
Right.
I mean, we may tend to associate one with the other, but that just shows codependence.
Ah, yes.
I think ultimately.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's my opinion anyway. Bronwyn said premonition and had a smile face on it, so I think Bronwyn was reacting.
Yes,
to
that was the word I was looking for. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jeffrey says, woo 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 hoo. I do that kind of work. It's a form of shamanism, not really like Hollywood. Like, okay. Well, he apparently has no problem, piercing the veil. It's okay. That's a good thing.
Yeah. But to each their own.
To each their own. Yeah. Yeah. Well, just because he doesn't mean you have to. It's
exactly.
It's like what your mom used to say.
I am interested. Like, I do watch videos about it, and I'm interested in the other side, but not so interested that I actually want to communicate and ask the questions personally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is an interesting subject, though.
I imagine that then when your mom said something to you like, so if your friend Cindy had to jump off a cliff, you would have to jump off a cliff? And you would say, no, I don't really have to do that.
No, I don't.
Funny stuff. Oh, what's this? Oh, I'm just picking up what I read before. So no big questions going on. If anybody does have questions, by the way, feel free to post them because we love addressing stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm open to anything. Anybody got any questions?
Doesn't even have to be about independent or codependent either. It can be just about, LOA in general, issues that you're having or whatever. It's just occurred to us that given the role that the very extensive role that codependence plays in society, it's going to come up a lot when it comes to trying to manifest stuff. Because when you're codependent, codependence is going to be tough for somebody who's deliberately manifesting. Because if you're dependent upon somebody else for how you feel about things, you have to wait for somebody to deliver the right feeling before you can deliberately manifest.
Yeah.
That's like, right. That's not a good thing.
No, that's the opposite of what you want.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's not a healthy place to be at all.
Right.
I have never really been in full codependence mode, so I'm not really sure what it's like. My wife, when she was young, she's told me about times that she was in that kind of a mode. And in fact, that was one of the answers that she gave me. My wife and I met when we were in our early 40s. So we met fairly late in life. And we often speculate, well, why didn't we meet sooner? Because we really, we're a good fit for each other. We just get along so well, and we're like-minded. And her first reaction was, well, if you had met me back when I was codependent, you would have turned and run the other direction. And she's probably right about that,
Yeah, exactly.
Because
you gotta be in the right space in life.
You do, yeah. Codependence is actually very unattractive. Yes. Except to another codependent person. And even then, it's more like a war.
Because then you're like, oh, I'm needy. Well, so am I. So let's need each other.
Let's be needy. Yeah, let's be needy together. Yeah. But even that doesn't work because
it doesn't.
Both parties are needy, and they're both looking to each other to fill the need, and neither one is doing that because they're both looking to the other person to fill the need. So, yeah, it tends to fall apart pretty quick. Yeah. So codependence is definitely a bad place to be in many ways. Yeah. Whereas independence, and that's one of those words, I'm looking for another word. I mean, independence is good, don't get me wrong. It's just that independent still has the concept of dependence on it. And that's what I want to get away from. I don't want to depend
I see what you're saying.
On, in any way, I don't want to feel like I am depending on somebody else for my happiness. I don't want to depend on somebody else for my livelihood. I want to depend on somebody else for, I want to feel that I'm the empowered one. And,
well, that's the thing about independence. You're depending on your inner self.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just see it as what we call a negative expression of something. We so often we express things as negatives. And we're warned against that. Abraham, for instance, talks about instead of being anti-war, be pro-peace. In other words, focus on the thing you want, not on the thing you don't want. So don't focus on the war part, even being anti-war, because you're still focused on war when you're doing that. So
exactly,
that's what I think about when I think about independence. It's still focused on dependence, just that I'm not dependent. I am not dependent, and now I'm still dependent because I'm thinking about dependence.
Yeah.
So that's why I want another word. I want a word that means like autonomous or something like that. I'm not quite sure what it is, but something that says I'm the empowered one, because that's what we're really looking for here. We're looking to be self-empowered, right?
Self-assured.
Self-assured. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I like that one. That feels very good. And very different from codependent at that point.
Self-aware is another one.
Yeah. Self-confident, really.
Yep. That's a good one.
And self-loving.
Yes.
Loving oneself, that's
most
big.
Important.
It is the most important of all. That actually, I think, is probably the biggest one because I learned through doing mirror exercises how powerful that is. Mm-hmm. Right? Because when you're telling yourself, the first couple of times it's kind of rough, but after you've been doing it
Yeah,
for
it's
a
kind of
while.
weird.
It's really strange.
It's like, I don't want to talk. I mean, I talk to myself all the time, but I don't want to talk to myself.
Yeah, not that much. Like, oh, I love you. No, wait a minute, hold on.
Yeah, like I have a hard enough time taking compliments, so for me to compliment myself, it's really weird.
But that's all the reason, of course, to keep doing the exercises, right? Because we want to get past that part. I mean, taking compliments, you got to be able to accept a compliment. You got to be able to accept an appreciation. Because if you can't accept the appreciation,
I just say thank you. I don't. I feel weird about it, but I still say thank you.
Well, thank you for that. No, but it's true. I mean, you have to be able to accept. You have to be able to receive. That's what it amounts to.
Yeah.
Receiving is big. And you have to really be able to receive in every way possible. That's what I work on. Are there any ways that I am not receiving as well as I could be? Anytime I notice one of those, I want to try to clear that as soon as I can. Because you can attract all you want to, but if you can't let it in, it's not going to help a whole lot.
Very true.
Right?
Very true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the receiving part's pretty important. But yeah, self-love, self-confident, self-appreciative. All those things. Those are good words. Those are terms that I think actually describe it really nicely. Because when you're in that mode, plus the nice thing about those words is, unlike independent sometimes has a sort of a negative thing associated with it, like, oh well, he's aloof. He doesn't need other
he's
people.
To himself.
Yeah. Self-absorbed and all that kind of thing.
Right.
And there's like what they really mean by that is he doesn't show any kind of concern for somebody else. He doesn't show any kind of caring for somebody else.
Exactly.
That's what
it does have a negative connotation to it.
Yeah. Well, that's why selfish is considered to be so bad. There's actually nothing wrong with loving yourself, but what they mean by it is you have absolutely no concern for anybody else. That's what they really mean.
Take it to the extreme.
Yeah. Well, it's not even extreme. Actually, it isn't even related when you think about it. There's really no relationship between loving yourself and refusing to have any concern for somebody else. But we tend to think that there is one, and that's why we associate them and say, oh, well, he's selfish.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, but there really isn't a connection there. It's an association we draw. But I always say I'm not going to do anything political, and then I say something political. So I'm not going to do anything political. And I'm not meaning anything political.
It's kind of impossible not to these days.
But I look at the President Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump is quintessentially selfish, the way that most people mean that, because what they mean is he is often cruel to certain people who are, his enemies, the people that are not his sycophants. And because of that, there's a line drawn, right?
Right.
That's why I think people think that he's selfish. I think he actually is selfish, but that's not what that part is. That part is just being cruel to other people under certain circumstances. Is cruelty necessary? Absolutely not.
No, it's not necessary.
Does it have anything to do with being a self? Well, I guess in the sense that everybody's a self, but beyond that, not really.
Yeah, I know, right?
So, okay, let's see. What have we got here? Bronwyn is agreeing with us. Bronwyn. I got to get that name right. Bronwyn. Bronwyn is agreeing with us. Bronwyn is saying that's so true. And Paul is joining us. Hello, Paul. Glad you made it to the show today. Nobody's coming in with questions, so I guess everybody has all this figured out. Maybe we should bring them on. Maybe they could explain it to us. Maybe they're the experts in this thing, right?
Apparently. Everybody's doing the whole self-love thing. So
I guess.
They don't even need today's episode.
Well, maybe we should do like Man in the Street. We'll just come in via camera to their phone and say, so, tell us why you're the happiest person on earth, and we'll share that with the rest of the group, right?
Right.
Oh, no,
share with the rest of the group. I like it.
I think that people are happy that Facebook doesn't let you do that. Somebody forcing a microphone into your mouth, right? Yeah, no, that probably wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Facebook gets enough bad press. They don't need that one too.
I know, right? That's the last thing they need.
That's the last thing they need.
Poor Facebook.
But independence. What we're really looking for there. We talked about how we're looking for self-love, self-appreciation. But it also plays a significant role in a healthy relationship. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Because you really need to have two people who have that self-love, that self-confidence in order for a love relationship to blossom.
Yes.
Which suggests to me, and I want to see what you think about this, it suggests to me that the only people who are going to be good at letting source energy flow, because I think source energy is the same thing as love. So that's my assumption in this. The only people who are going to be good at letting that flow are going to be people who are independent, people who are self-assured, self-loving, and so forth. So if you have two people who are like that, you're going to have the most love going on between the two of them.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Because I feel like, especially in relationships, there's a point where you have to be able to go about your day and not be so needy or dependent on the other person. Like, oh, I need to text him and be like, oh, I need to talk to you right now. No, just do your own thing. Like, go out with your girlfriends and hang out, and then come back home to your significant other. You know, you need to have couple time, and then you need to have your separate time. And if you have your separate time and you can't be by yourself, that's an issue you got to work in within yourself.
Yeah, and that will ultimately affect your relationship.
Yes, it will.
It has to. Yeah.
Because then you become too needy and the person can't take it. They suffocate.
We also see it, not so much in this group. There's another group that I won't name because I don't want to disparage another group, but there's one group in particular where you see a lot of people posting about things like wanting to use the law of attraction to attract back an ex, or wanting to attract a particular kind of person into your life, or, you know, wanting to, in many ways, they're actually thinking about using the law of attraction as if it were a force, like you can force somebody back into your life.
Yeah.
You know?
Which is not what it's about.
No, it's not. No, but nevertheless, they almost treat it that way. And there are some of them that if you, I've tried to reply to some of them, and if you don't reply in just the right way, they take great offense because, you know, you're trampling
them. You disagree with them.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. I'm trying to disagree without being disagreeable, but I guess sometimes that doesn't work.
It doesn't come across on social media.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? It's you got to have the voice behind it so they can hear your tone. That's the problem with texting and stuff like that. Just, you can't hear the tone.
Yeah. But nevertheless, so many of them, and it seems to be, I don't like the stereotype, but this does seem to be the case. It seems to be young women. I'm going to say women primarily in their late teens or 20s. And usually shortly after there was a breakup, and they're really heartbroken about the breakup and they want him back. That kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Because at that age, you always think that your ex is the one that was supposed to be the one for you. So
right.
Even though you're like 19, so you really have so many years ahead of you before, and so many frogs to kiss before you find your prince. so don't even worry about it.
On behalf of the frogs, I'm not sure I like that analogy, but.
Well, you're married, so you're a prince now. So
I see. Oh, okay. Well, then I'll just try to ignore the first 20 years of my single life before I got married.
But you had to kiss a lot of frogs, too, to find your princess.
But I didn't think of them as frogs. That's the thing. I thought every one of them was lovely. I thought every one of them was a beautiful person. So, I don't know. That's just me, I guess. No, but seriously, the truth is, I mean, you do feel that when you're that young, don't you? And it's not just female either. I mean, men feel exactly the same thing.
Yes,
especially after that first breakup where it just feels like the world is ending. You know, the pain is excruciating. You know, it's like there's this gigantic hole in your chest and it'll never heal.
It'll never be filled.
Yep. All that kind of thing.
You always get over it. You always get over it.
Isn't that annoying?
Yeah. But it's something you learn with age and wisdom. Like, I didn't know that back then when I was 19. If I was dating someone, I'd be like, oh my God, my life is over.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, my world came crashing down. There's no one else out there for me. I have to get him back. But now I'm 35 and I'm like, next.
Say goodbye to that bus. Another one's coming. Oh, that's funny.
I just say, thank you, Lord, for the lesson. Now let's move on.
No, that's good. That is a very good way to do it. It fits in nicely though with the topic because ultimately, people, female or male, usually young, who go through that for the first time and try to find some way to get that person back because the pain is so excruciating, or because they're so desperate about getting that person because that person is the perfect person. That is a codependent person. That's a person who's not really loving themselves as much as they need to. And
it's hard to love yourself in a breakup, especially if you're the one who was broken up with.
Yeah.
If you're the breakup instead of the breakup it's totally a different situation.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be. Because a lot of the times you'll see somebody posting, "Oh, I broke up with him, but I really want him back." And I'm thinking, okay, well, why did you break up in the first place? It couldn't have been all that good.
There had to be a reason.
There had to be a reason.
So think about it.
Yeah. Like, you sure you really want to go down that path again?
No, I feel like they're just lonely.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
Like, it's better to be with somebody than to be alone because then...
Yeah, some people just can't be alone. They just can't be by themselves. Like people who are chronically in relationships, like jumping from person to person just because they cannot be by themselves. Like it's scary. Like they don't know who they are unless they're appreciating or loving someone else.
Bronwyn, I keep screwing it up. Bronwyn had a comment. She says, I think people who don't want to waste the time and effort and start over again, it's being lazy. What do you think?
I agree.
You think
it's like
true?
It's like quitting a job and starting a new one, or not even starting a new one, but applying for new jobs. It's tiring and you don't want to do it, so you just rather not quit your job.
Yeah, it's pretty sad actually when you think about that. By the way, Bronwyn thinks that that we're both awesome, so I had to let you know about that. Bronwyn
thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate Bronwyn too. She's wonderful too. I think you're right, and I think that I think it's once again an example of a lack of self-love, because if you feel like you have to jump from one relationship to the next, like you said, you don't feel comfortable in your own skin being by yourself. Well, that means you don't think very much of yourself.
Exactly. You crave that attention and what's the word I'm looking for? You just crave that I can't think of the word. Opinion. You crave the opinions of other people, so you need to be around someone else. So you have to be in a relationship because that's where you get your approval from.
Yes. Yeah, and it isn't just approval.
That could stem from childhood and what your parents did to you. So.
Well, most stuff does. That's true.
Yeah, true.
But when you're in that place, it can also it's kind of an indicator. It's not just that you're looking for approval from the other person. You're looking for social approval. Oh, well, she's in a relationship. Oh, he's in a relationship. That means that there's something good going on about that person. So it's like vicariously getting your strokes rather than feeling good about yourself. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
I mean, we all go through it. I went through it the other day. I saw a meme that said, everyone on my 600-pound life has a significant other. And I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
Well, having been there, I know exactly how that feels. And I wasn't 600 pound. I just was 20 years without a significant other, and just it's miserable.
It's been a while for me too, so I know what you're saying.
It's a miserable place to be in. The best thing I can tell, I always wanted to be able to come through it and be able to give other people advice like, okay, I found what the reason is. I found what the solution is. And if you do this thing, you won't have this problem anymore. It was very annoying to come through it and realize that my particular issue might be completely different from everybody else's issue.
Exactly.
It screwed up the whole plan. I mean,
different.
Here I thought I was going to have the final answer that would, eliminate the heartache for everybody, and no, I don't have it.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
You tried, though.
I did try. Well, I did find something that is useful to some people, because it was certainly useful to me, which was realizing that I was sabotaging my own chance with each new relationship, because as the experiences kind of piled up one after another, I would go into the relationship believing, well, this one's not going to work out either. And I'd be right.
So you were getting in your own way.
I was definitely getting in my own way, yeah. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, the only way I was able to get out of my own way was to give up. I just threw in the towel. I said, I'm done.
Yeah. And that's not a good way to think, but that's okay.
Hey, at that point, whatever it takes, because I needed to break that cycle. That was the thing. That cycle was just deathly. That was just a horrible cycle to be in. So you got to break it some way. Once I got through it and broke through and, kind of let go of all that stuff, Louise showed up a month later and we've been together ever since. So,
I say timing is everything.
Timing is everything. It is. But on the other hand, that's the universal timing.
Yes.
It's not like I have to do the timing. Yeah.
No.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because when you let the universe time everything, then it's a completely different thing. It's kind of like riding a roller coaster. Like, where's the next turn coming from? More like
that's why I just sit back and I don't worry about it. I'm like, okay, who's next? Because I'm just letting the universe do its own thing. Mm-hmm. I'm just here for the ride.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Something about my analogy is I'm riding the roller coaster with a blindfold on. I can't tell where it's going next. All I know is that I'm about to be shoved against the side one way or another, and I have to deal with it.
I just got the visual. Oh my God.
Well, that's the way it is sometimes. I mean, my co-hosts, who are life coaches, and I and a bunch of other life coaches all put together a book that we published this past May of some of our favorite personal law of attraction manifestation stories. And the last story in the book was one that was mine and my wife's, our story together of when we moved, got new homes, got new cars, acquired new cats, and did all of that with no money in the bank. And it was a crazy roller coaster. I mean, it was.
I like it.
It's great in hindsight when I describe it that way. I mean, it sounds really cool when I describe it that way.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? When you're living it, it's hell. It's absolute hell.
Right? Because you're like, oh God, what next?
Oh. Well, literally, when I went to write that part, Louise and I were going to write it together, and she started writing, and I started writing, and she got about 5 or 6 paragraphs out and said, well, I can't do this. I can't relive that again. It's just too painful. And so I ended up writing most of it because it was excruciatingly painful. But when stuff started to fall into place, it was like being gobsmacked. It's like, what the bleep just happened?
Yeah.
At the very last possible second. And that's what it was. It was always at the last minute, at the very last second. I mean, we knew we wanted to move. Louise wanted to come back to Connecticut. We were in Virginia at the time. Okay. And we had enough money for a move, and then our savings is wiped out. Our life savings is wiped out because we've been through like one bad thing after another. So, okay, this is it. This is our last thing to do. We're going to move to Connecticut, and then we got to be successful from that point on, right? We both had cars that were over 10 years old. We acquired these 4 cats because they had been abandoned by people who lived across the street from us who had been evicted from their home and hadn't bothered to let anybody know about it. And so we just found one of these cats, came up onto our front step and introduced himself, and we ended up finding all 4 of them. And we were living at the time in a house where our lease did not allow us to have any pets. We had 4 cats in the house. So another reason we had to move, and we had to move soon. We had to move. We had to find a place to move to. We know what town we wanted to come back to. It was the same town we had lived in prior to moving to Virginia. When we came up here to Connecticut to look, we were looking not only for like an apartment or someplace we could afford, but Louise was also looking for work. At the time, my job was all online. It was self-employed web design, that kind of thing. She, at the time, was working in daycare. So she needed to find some daycare to hook up with. And it took a couple visits to actually make that happen, which in and of itself was traumatic because we didn't hardly have the money for 2 trips, One trip was a lot.
That's expensive.
We had to make 2 trips. We finally find the job, and we find an apartment that we can afford, barely, but we could afford it. And we find out that we have 2 weeks to make the move.
Wow.
And we have a house full of things. I mean, we had a lot of stuff.
Yikes.
And my wife still had to work her old job. So, I mean, it just made it was just insane the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
On top of that, she couldn't drive that distance. It's like a 550-mile trip. And she needed me to be able to do the driving. Well, we had 2 vehicles. How are we going to do that? You know? And both of them were on their last legs. Would they even make the trip?
Right.
Would they even get us there? Well, I won't tell the whole detailed story, but I'll tell you that both the car died the day before we moved. As I was in the act of selling it. I had literally just driven it back home from an errand. The guy shows up to buy it. He says, "Yeah, it looks okay." He opens it up, and it's drained of oil. There is no oil left in the engine.
Oh, no.
And I'm thinking, oh, my God, this is crazy. And now, this was an old car, so I was hoping I could get about $500 out of it. And I had asked $750, and I was willing to negotiate and all that kind of thing. Right. He says, "Well, I can't give you your price, but can I give you $500?" And I said, "Okay. Yeah, sure." You want to give me $500 for a car that leaks all its oil on the ground? Okay, sure. So I got rid of the car, and then the day of the move, we had previously arranged with the mover, because I wasn't even sure that her truck would make it up there. But he agreed he would he would tow the truck behind the moving van. I thought, oh, that's cool. That's a great solution. Yeah. I love that one, right? So we were going to rent an SUV, take the remainder stuff that wouldn't fit into the van and put it into the back along with the cats, 2 of whom we had to take to the shelter because we could only bring 2 cats with us. That alone was a traumatic story, because we had to leave 2 cats in a shelter that was not a no-kill shelter. So we didn't even know if they're going to live. Oh, that was rough. But did that part. The movers show up on the day. They're packing stuff into the van. They're packing it to the roof. They can't even get everything in. We're trying to figure out what to take to the dump because they can't get everything in there. And then the mover says to us, "Oh, by the way, it says on the work order that you were to tow the pickup truck. The law won't let us do that. We can't tow your pickup truck." And I'm thinking, what the hell do we do?
Right.
This is a truck I was hoping I could get it up there and we could drive it around for a few months and then, sell it and get something better, that kind of thing. I mean, it was okay. It was not in bad shape or anything like that, but it had a lot of miles on it. And I was hoping to get maybe $1,200 for it or something like that. And ask maybe 15, that kind of deal. Well, that plan was shot. And then when one of his moving guys came up to him and said, "Are you interested in selling that pickup truck?"
Nice.
I said, "Yeah, I'm open to it. What do you have in mind?" He says, "Well, I'll give you $1,500 for it."
Oh, sweet.
I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I agreed to it. And then after I agreed to it, the owner of the company, he approached the owner because he didn't have that much money with him. He says, "Well, can you loan me $1,500 so I can buy this thing?" And the owner of the company looks at it and he says, "Well, that isn't worth more than 12. So they came back and said, "Well, we'll give you 12 for it." And I said, "Okay," which is exactly what I had in mind, right? So they ended up buying the truck. We get the van packed off. They actually take off down the road. We're left, doing some cleaning in the kitchen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We're taking the last bits in the dark because there's no lamps in the house, and we had one kitchen light. That was our entire lighting that we're working with, and it's pitch black outside. We finish loading up our little SUV. We get the cats in there. We get on the road. We stop to get something to drink, and as we're driving up the highway, I just kind of stop. I mean, I'm driving, but I kind of stop mentally, and I turn to Louise and I say, "We don't own a car." What are we going to do? Because we just spent all of our money on this move. What on earth are we going to do, So we get up here, and we arrive at 4:00 in the morning, and we were exhausted. All we had was like an air mattress. We threw the air mattress down on the floor, went to sleep, and a half hour later, the moving van guy says, "Hey, we're outside. Can you let us in?" So after a half hour of sleep, and of course they were driving all night, so they come in, they move everything in. Next morning we go looking for a car. We got to get a car, right? Yeah. Go up to a dealership, and we're Toyota people, so we went to a Toyota dealership that's not real close to us. The Toyota dealership wanted to put me into a car that I like a lot, but I couldn't really afford, and it wouldn't leave us any room to get a second car. We needed 2 cars. Well, long story short, that didn't work out so well. The next day I go to another dealership that's very close to where we are. Same kind of thing, a Toyota dealership. And we drive in the morning in our rental, and we're like desperate. We have no idea what to do. We can't really afford anything.
Right.
You know, we have no money to put down. And we're talking to the dealer. He's a really nice guy, really, really nice guy. And his supervisor comes over. And his supervisor asks what's going on. He explains it to him and says, we're going to put you in 2 vehicles before you leave here today. I said, well, that sounds great,
nice.
but I don't think we can really afford it because I knew what these cars cost. I mean, even if you're going with a lease, I knew what they cost. Do you know that they discounted their prices so much that they discounted their entire profits away just to make sure that we could be in 2 cars that day?
Wow.
The prices that we got,
so
you can't get those prices going into a dealership.
Right, you definitely can't.
You know? and we drove off the lot with 2 brand new cars. So we came to Connecticut with no money and drove off the lot with 2 brand new cars with our 2 cats and our new home and a job for Louise. And all came like, bam, and all came together at once like that. It was crazy.
Law of attraction, man.
Law of attraction. So that's the story. And actually, we're kind of over time, so we got to draw a line there.
We are.
but this has been good. I've enjoyed it a lot. And I hope people picked up some good stuff with it. I know that we picked up, having a good time. That's really what it's all about.
I had a good time.
Getting that daily dose of happy. So look forward to I'll be talking to you on Friday, right?
Yep.
So we'll be talking then, and we hope that our listeners will come back as well next time here on All the Way Today. Goodbye, everybody.